Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. This is my recap for the anime 4 Nights of the Apocalypse. If you like my recaps, please consider liking the video. The story begins as a boy named Percival gets his giant hulk of a grandfather to help him knock down a rare bird. Percival almost eats himself off of a mountain, but this kid is our protagonist, so he survives. This kid's grandfather can barely fit on his seat, and they still manage to enjoy the bird for lunch. However, we see that the bird has a strange mark on it. The two then have a little sparring match, and Percival shows off some sweet moves. He is determined to beat the giant mountain of muscles, but he doesn't stand a chance. Percival is frustrated, but his grandfather says that he almost got him, and his attitude completely changes. Old Grandpa washes dishes in the lake and thinks about how much Percival has grown. He rushes home to remind Percival about his birthday tomorrow, but Percival is busy watering the plants. Percival will be turning 16, and he's just excited that he will be able to drink beer, but old Grandpa says it's still too soon. Grandpa takes Percival to the top of a mountain to show him the world, and he is sure that Percival is ready to journey around the world. He is shocked though when Percival shows no interest in journeying, and he says it's because he has fun every day just being home. Grandpa tries to encourage him by pointing towards an island of sky people. The giant grandpa hopes that it will inspire Percival, but it doesn't. He explains that the world below where they live is filled with thrilling adventure and mystery. There are twisting towers where eccentric magicians dwell, large caves with openings that lead to the netherworld, and labyrinth forests that no one can ever escape if lost. Grandpa hopes that Percival is even just a little excited, but is shocked when Percival just cares about catching some skyfish with his grandpa. That night, old Grandpa explains that Percival's father couldn't wait to leave the house at 16 years old, but Percival is quick to point out that his father is not alive anymore. He wonders if Percival is lonely being there, but he is not because he lives with his favorite person, his grandpa. Percival then repeats a saying that his grandpa always says when he is drunk, that says defeat the evil and help the weak. Percival promises to protect his grandfather, but old Grandpa says that he isn't so senile that he needs to be protected. While Grandpa sleeps, Percival heads outside where he thinks about all the adventures his grandpa talked about. We see that Percival is actually so excited by adventure that he can barely stay still. However, he tempers himself by saying that he is fine there because he has his grandpa. He wakes up after falling asleep outside and is shocked to see someone mysterious approaching. The man came because his bird signal ended there. He tells Percival that he's looking for a man named Varkis, and that just so happens to be his grandfather. This man is an old friend from when they were holy knights, so Percival points him in the direction of their house. This man lets Percival check out his ship, but thinks about how cruel Varkis was for raising a child while hiding the truth. Percival is disappointed that he can't get the boat to move, but begins to think that the guy was pretty creepy. He has a bad feeling, so he begins to head home. The man gets Grandpa's attention, but Varkis must instantly defend himself from the guy's insane attack that sends him flying through the house. The man points out that it's been 16 years since Varkis betrayed their master and fled. Varkis quickly engages this man in combat and accuses him of being the betrayer. This guy is insanely powerful though, and lands a devastating attack. Percival arrives at the worst possible moment and demands to know what the man just did to his grandpa. This guy is seriously evil, as he tells Percival to just stand by and wait his turn. Percival doesn't listen to a single word and instantly tries to attack him. It's no use, as the guy can unleash an immense attack with just the slightest movement of his finger, and he tells Percival that he has no discipline. Grandpa uses this moment to grab onto the man, and he tells Percival to run away. Percival refuses to leave him there, but the man tells him not to worry, since neither of them will be escaping. With the slightest movement, this man puts several devastating holes in Varkis, and uses his cross attack on Percival next. Percival tries his best to fight back, but it's hopeless. This guy's name is Ironside, and Varkis wonders why he came after him only now. Ironside explains that a few days ago, an ominous prophecy was made. The arrival of an existence that will lead their lord, King Arthur, to his doom. They are named the 4 Nights of the Apocalypse. Their identities are unknown, but they cannot say for sure that Varkis is not one of those 4 knights. The man leaves and Varkis apologizes to Percival. Percival is in tears and apologizes back for not being able to protect him. Varkis wants Percival to find someone that is actually worth protecting. He wants him to trust his heart and find someone important whom he can walk through life with. Percival thinks he is being punished for lying, since the truth is that he really did want to go on an adventure. Grandpa says that he lied too, since he was actually glad when Percival said he wasn't lonely because they had each other. Varkis collapses, but he is amazed to see that Percival seems to be fine after taking so much damage. Varghese then shockingly reveals that the man that just attacked them is Percival's father. Percival was always told that his father passed away when he was young. He thinks that Grandpa is lying now, since he can't believe that his father would do something so horrible to them. Grandpa doesn't have time to explain and tells Percival that he will have to find his father again if he wants answers. He tells Percival to begin his journey, but Percival doesn't want his grandpa to pass away. Grandpa tells him that they will be together forever from now on, and he wishes luck to his precious grandson. Varghese passes away, and Percival screams in agony. Percival buries his grandfather and begins learning to live on his own. Sadly, Percival would eventually find a gift his grandfather left him that would help him on his journey, and he holds the clothes close to him. Percival gets suited up and says goodbye to his grandpa. Percival's journey starts off a bit slow, but he is soon on the move. Sometime later, Percival has spent an entire day climbing down the mountain where they lived, but still can't even see below the clouds. He would climb for several more hours and celebrates when he has almost reached Britannia, but instantly falls. Luckily, he is saved by a rock bird, so he promises to never eat one again. The thing just kicks him off though, so Percival promises to eat it again one day. Percival makes a crash landing and sees an animal he has never seen before. Percival explains to the little creature that he climbed down from the mountain called God's Finger, and it took him 2 days. Percival's grandpa told him about things called villages and towns with lots of people, so he asked the little creature if he could take him there. The thing doesn't seem to understand, but Percival follows it anyway since he is lonely. Just then, Percival spots a group practicing some kind of performance. The leader named Cat starts off the show, followed by Miss Elva and her little monkey. Their featured act is a guy named Donnie, but he isn't interested in performing without a crowd. Just then, they are shocked as Percival is clapping vigorously. He is amazed by their performance and begs them to do it again. Donnie tries to bully Percival into paying for the act, but Percival has never even heard of the concept of paying for things. Donnie gets him to give all his stuff as payment instead and begins his performance by making Percival float. Of course, Percival is amazed, but Donnie's actually kind of a jerk as he forces his 2 friends to run off with him. Donnie says he is just teaching the kid how the world works, but Elva doesn't want to leave the poor kid since he seems to be all alone. Donnie thinks they have gotten too far to turn back now, but everyone is shocked when Percival instantly catches up to them. Percival isn't upset at all, and he simply wonders if they know where he can find Ironside. They wonder if Ironside is a friend of his, but Percival is quick to point out that Ironside is his father that ended his grandfather's life. Percival isn't even sure if what he seeks is revenge, but he definitely has a lot of questions for Ironside. Percival gets excited to hear about a village, and they even offer to take him there. Donnie doesn't want to just take him for free, so they decide to see if Percival can give a performance. Percival tries out using a bow and arrow, but somehow manages to hit Donnie when he was behind him. Katz decides to take him for free since they travel from village to village putting on shows anyway. Percival was amazed by their magic, but Donnie explains that they were pretty much just tricks, and he hates having to rely on subpar powers to make money. Katz explains that their team is made up of dropouts whose dream of joining the Holy Knights were crushed. Percival remembers that Ironside mentioned that he and Varghese were Holy Knights before, and the others are amazed. They wonder what country Percival is from, but he doesn't even have a clue what a country is. Just then, some strangers frantically tell them to get help as their village is being attacked by a wolf. Donnie thinks that they can drive the wolf away themselves, but instantly changes his mind when they arrive to find the terrifying giant wolf. Donnie says that there is nothing they can do for the village, but everyone is shocked when Percival springs into action. Percival remembers his grandpa's words to always defeat the evil and help the weak, so that's exactly what he does. He tells the wolf to prepare to become his dinner, but all of Percival's arrows completely miss the mark and come right back to him instead. The wolf is about to take him out, but Donnie surprisingly comes back to save him. Donnie is in great pain, but he blames Percival for getting him all fired up to be a hero. He warns Percival to run away as the wolf is going in to finish him, but everyone is stunned when Percival stops it. Percival instantly knocks the giant monster out with one attack, leaving everyone in awe. We see that the wolf had a mark like the bird did from earlier, and the little pink fox looking thing saw everything. We also see that some knight was amazed by the display and decides that he will be next to act. Afterwards, Elva helps Percival get cleaned up and is horrified by his scars that haven't even had enough time to heal yet. She explains that Holy Knights have magical powers that they use to protect the kingdom and its people, and she thinks Percival might have what it takes to become one of them after seeing how he rushed in to save the village. Everyone celebrates their savior at a little party, but none of them have even heard of Ironside. Percival gets frustrated but is stunned when a floating man reveals that he knows the name. This night came after the elimination of his wolf familiar and after hearing reports that Varghese and his grandson were defeated. This knight is surprised to see that Percival is still alive and determines that his father really did care about him after all. The knight rudely asks about his grandfather, so Katz demands that he apologize. This guy is a holy knight, so he easily knocks Katz away. He is the Black Knight called Pelegard, and he is a comrade of Ironside and Varghese. Pelegard admires how Percival doesn't fear him, but Percival has no interest in chit-chatting and gives the guy 5 seconds to tell him where Ironside is. The 5 seconds go by with no resolution, so Percival charges at him. Pelegard is stunned to see that Percival is challenging him barehanded and amazed when he manages to push him back in all his heavy armor. The guy agrees to tell Percival whatever he wants if he wins, but if he loses then he will take Percival away. He can see Percival's potential, so he would like to train him himself. Percival is more defiant than ever as he has no plans of going with him and vows to win the fight. Unfortunately, this guy is way stronger than Percival and easily stops him. Pelegard tells Percival that if he isn't going to fight with a weapon, then he better start using his magic, but Percival reveals that he doesn't have any magic. Pelegard wonders if he overestimated the boy and decides to end the fight quickly by punching him in the gut. The beating is relentless as Percival refuses to give up. Donnie tries to jump in to help his new friend, but Elva stops him since it will only make things worse. Some young kid in the crowd idolizes the savior of their town and is certain that his new hero won't lose. Percival is inspired by the boy and somehow manages to push the knight back. Percival doesn't even understand how he did it, and everyone is shocked when magic begins flowing from his hands. Percival has no clue what is going on and even begins to freak out because it feels so weird. He desperately tries to get it off and accidentally sends the knight flying back. Donnie explains that it must be Percival's magic and urges him to use it to beat Pelegard. Percival is an honest kid though, so he asks for permission to use his magic in the fight since he told Pelegard that he didn't have any magic earlier. He allows it, so they both decide to not hold back. Percival must quickly dodge Pelegard's fireball, and Donnie is shocked as his magic is far greater than even their leaders. Percival won't survive if it hits him, so he desperately dodges. Pelegard urges him to start attacking, so Percival starts by knocking the fireball away. Unfortunately, it still hits him, and Pelegard explains that his flames burn its target to nothing. Unless he cancels the spell, they will never go out. He demands that Percival surrender, but Percival can't stand losing. Pelegard is stunned when Percival uses his magic to protect his body, but tells him that it's too late since he has taken too much damage. Just then, little minions start appearing everywhere, and Pelegard wonders if Percival is creating them unconsciously. The little guys manage to interrupt Pelegard's spell, and Percival shockingly begins healing. Pelegard realizes that Percival is using the rarest type of magic that doesn't fit in any category. It's not destruction type, incantation type, degeneration type, or even healing type. He isn't sure, but he thinks it might be the one that is said to belong to one of 10,000 people. It's called the hero type magic. Pelegard fears that the others will come after Percival if they find out, so he can't allow it. Percival wants to continue the fight as everyone begins to believe that he can win, and Pelegard explains that he wants to train him more than ever. Pelegard flatters Percival by showering him with praise, but explains that Percival really doesn't have a chance of winning. Donnie realizes this as well, so he levitates Pelegard so Percival can get away. Pelegard has had enough of the games though, and blows up the entire area. He prepares to finish Percival off, but the little red fox from earlier steps between them. Pelegard tries to shoo it away, but is stunned when it teleports his prey to safety. Donnie points out that they have been teleported to the top of an insanely large dragon's spine 30 miles away from their village, so Percival wants to rush back. The fox shockingly speaks and tells them that the village will be safe since the knight just wanted them. He explains that Pelegard serves an evil king and is part of the group who targets the 4 knights of the apocalypse. The 4 knights don't actually exist yet, but they will appear in the not so distant future. The fox has orders from a group that opposes them and explains that he actually just found one of the 4 knights. The 4 knights are famine, pestilence, war, and death. The 4 holy knights who will destroy the world with 4 calamities. The fox then stuns both of them when he reveals that Percival is one of these 4 knights of the apocalypse. Elsewhere, Pelegard joins a meeting of holy knights where they are told that they have identified the 4 knights of the apocalypse as young boys. One is a boy with golden magical power. One is a boy with holiness and evil in his eyes. One is a big mysterious boy with no fixed appearance. And the other one is a boy with green feather-like hair. Ironside is in disbelief when he hears this, and their leader explains that they have to find the 4 knights for their king. No matter what, they need to get to them first and dispose of them quickly. Pelegard reveals to Ironside that Percival is still alive, so Ironside questions if he ended his life. Pelagard thinks that would be a waste and would rather make Percival their ally and train him well. Ironside attacks him, but Pelagard refuses to fight. Ironside points out that Pelagard doesn't understand what is happening. Percival is not just a threat to their king, he is going to end up destroying the entire world. The pink fox tells Percival the exact same thing, but Percival simply says he just won't destroy the world. He explains that after he beats up his father, he will just go on an adventure to explore the mysterious place that his grandfather told him about. He won't become a holy knight, and he won't destroy the world. The fox reveals that Percival's father and his comrades are all in a place called Camelot. It's a kingdom that got destroyed in the Holy War against the Demon Clan 16 years ago. All it took was one hit from the Demon King, and everything was destroyed without a trace. Donnie explains that Camelot doesn't exist anymore, so Percival tells the little fox to beat it since he won't be going with him. The fox assures him that it really does exist, but explains that the journey there is very difficult. Percival instantly changes his mind because it sounds like an adventure, and the fox introduces himself as Sin. The three of them begin the journey, but they soon get hungry, so Percival decides that they should have a contest to see who can find the best prey. Donnie takes Percival's bow and arrow, but that's okay because Percival finds an interesting place for himself to hunt. Donnie is pretty bad at aiming the bow and finds that he struck a giant nun with the arrow. Donnie apologizes, but the nun says it's okay since she only screamed because she was startled. Just then, some fairy-looking guys urgently tell the giant that a human with a strange helmet entered the Echo Gorge. Donnie realizes that they are talking about Percival, and the fairies explain that the gorge was once a beautiful place. However, it is now a living nightmare. We then see exactly what they were talking about as Percival is faced with several monsters, but he makes quick work of them. He is actually really happy since all the prey are just coming to him, so he is sure to win the competition. Just then, he hears something calling for help. In a nearby house, we see that some little clown monster is tied up and being interrogated. Some kid decides that the little creature will be his guinea pig for some experiments, and the little guy cries for help. Percival comes to the rescue, but just ends up getting a face full of wood. The little monster impatiently tells Percival to free him, and it instantly flies away. Percival is amazed by the fairy-like monster that he has never seen before, but he loses consciousness. Donnie and his new friends are on their way to find Percival, and the giant explains that some guy used a weird medicine to make all the living creatures in the gorge violent. This guy is really upset with Percival and plans to have him take the monster's place as his guinea pig. This kid is known as the mad herbalist named Nasons. Percival's friends reach the entrance to the gorge, but the fairies fear that they may be too late. They once witnessed the evil herbalist in action, so Donnie says they need to hurry. Percival wakes up, which is very odd to Nasons since he should have been out cold for at least 10 hours. Percival demands that he get his clothes back since his father gave them to him, so the boy shows him where they are. Everything but his helmet and cloak were practically destroyed already. However, the helmet and cloak are magic items with strong magical powers. Nasons wastes no time and injects Percival with this mixture. It should take an hour to start working, but Nasons is fascinated when it works instantly. Percival is sure that this guy is evil as he was going to hurt that fairy, but Nasons explains that that fairy broke into his house and attacked him first. Percival is convinced that Nasons had blood coming out of his mouth because he bit the fairy, but that isn't the case. Nasons gets excited because Percival is the perfect guinea pig, so Nasons starts bleeding from the mouth again. Biting his lip when he gets excited is just something Nasons has done since childhood. Percival thinks that he should kick the habit, and Nasons says that his sister says the exact same thing. Back with Donnie's group, they are being chased by violent monsters. Donnie calls Nasons evil for causing this issue, but the giant gets upset and says that Nasons isn't like that. Nasons plans to let Percival go after he tries one last medicine, but if he makes the wrong mixture, then Percival will lose his life. Nasons is shaking and explains that he has a mission he needs to fulfill. Percival has a mission as well, so he breaks free, but Nasons isn't prepared to let him go. Nasons promises not to take his life, but the two begin fighting. Percival offers to help him if he needs it, but Nasons just wants test subjects for his medicine. The only reason he doesn't test on himself is because if he ends himself, then he won't be able to save the gorge. Percival's helmet flies off when his hair expands, which allows him to get the medicine, and he refuses to give it back. He then shocks the evil scientist when he chugs it on his own. Percival writhes in pain, so Nasons tries to get him to spit it back up. Percival always keeps us guessing though, as he says that he can feel the power surging through his body, and he now has endless amounts of energy. He rushes outside to say something silly, and his friends determine that he must be okay. Nasons can't believe what he just did, and Percival says that it was an easy decision to drink the medicine, since Nasons was just trying to save the gorge. It's clear that the medicine works, so Nasons shockingly chugs it down next. Donnie arrives just then, and wonders what Percival did to the kid. The fairies don't believe that Nasons is trying to save the gorge, but he whispers the name Ordo. Ordo is an old apothecary that once lived there. He was kind to everyone in the gorge and took care of them when they got injured. They found the young giant whose name is Dolores and the young human Nasons. Ordo taught Nasons everything he knows, but one day he just went missing. Since that day, Nason started doing weird experiments. Nearby, the little orange monster plans to destroy the entire forest, and he shockingly asks Ordo if he agrees. Nasons wakes up and urgently wants to go spread his medicine throughout the gorge. Some fairies appear to attack him, and they blame Nasons for Ordo leaving. They accuse him of trying to destroy the gorge and tell him to leave. Percival stands up for him and tells the little jerks that Nasons is actually trying to save the gorge. Just then, the forest begins to decay and the animals begin to pass away. Nasons realizes that he is out of time, so he must use the medicine. Percival points out that there is none left, but Nason shockingly creates some from his body. Nason reveals that after he ingests a poison, he teaches it to his body, and then he can freely create and mix his own. His magic is called Mix Venom, and he tells everyone to cover their mouths. Nasons creates a mist from his medicine that gets carried by the wind, and the gorge amazingly begins to revive. Nasons refers to Ordo as his grandfather and recalls the lessons he was taught. Afterwards, Percival gets a fresh cut and Dolores makes him some clothes. The fairies apologize to Nasons, but he completely understands since the monsters going crazy was a side effect of his medicine. No one knows why the gorge was decaying in the first place, but once Ordo disappeared, something started eating into the life force of everything. Nasons tells the fairies that Percival is the one that should be thanked, so they praise him, and the kid soaks it all in. Just then, a hideous monster appears, and Nasons can tell that it's Ordo. It's clearly a hideous creature, but Percival is just jealous that Nasons' grandpa is 3 times bigger than his was. Nasons wants to know what happened, but Dolores stops him from getting too close. Ordo releases a fog that causes the forest to begin rotting, so Nasons begs him to stop. Nasons tries to remind Ordo that he loved the gorge, but he's a monster now, and he wants to destroy it. Ordo plans to crush Nasons, and Percival can't stop it, but Dolores arrives just in time. She tries to remind Ordo that they are family, but the monster hits her with its poison, causing major damage. Just then, the fairy from earlier arrives, and they all realizes that it was the one that transformed Ordo. It did it because he says Ordo is a sinner, and he must atone for his sins by destroying the gorge. Ordo prepares to consume Nasons, but Percival manages to stop it. Nasons is beginning to lose hope, but Percival grabs a hold of him and tells him that they will get his grandpa back together. The evil fairy commands Ordo to run wild, but instantly gets an arrow through its head, and it melts away. No one knows where the arrow came from, but Ordo collapses and a holy knight appears before them. It is the Amber Knight, and his name is Talisker. Talisker tells them that if they can land a single blow on him, then he will tell them the sin that Ordo committed. If they somehow manage to beat him though, then he will turn Ordo back. Sin warns Nason not to fall for Talisker's taunting, but it's too late. Nasons uses his ability to apply poison to his daggers, and Percival decides to fight too. Percival confidently tries to activate his magic, but only manages to let out a little bit of gas instead. Nason tries to attack on his own, but their opponent is a holy knight, and uses an insane attack that creates a hailstorm. Percival managed to rescue him, but Talisker has Ordo join the fight. He tries to have Ordo finish Nasons off, but Percival once again intervenes. Percival urges Ordo to remember his family, and explains that Nasons worked so hard to protect the gorge for him. Talisker commands Ordo to end their lives, but Ordo has stopped listening as he seems to be coming back to his senses. Talisker decides to just send them all to the afterlife with his next attack. Sin is strangely okay with things ending this way, but Percival is a hero. He takes to the sky and sacrifices his body to destroy all the hail. Percival is severely injured, and Talisker wonders if the kid lost his mind. Percival tells Nasons that they will get his grandpa back no matter what, so Nasons' hope is restored. Talisker has had enough of the games. He prepares his next attack, but stops when an immense power surges from Percival's body. Talisker has never seen such unstructured magic, and Percival is shockingly healed from all the damage. Donnie realizes that it's much more magic than last time, and no one can understand what is happening. Talisker uses another powerful attack, but Percival's magic just consumes it and spits it back at Talisker. Talisker is becoming really annoyed, but Percival tells him that he's going to defeat him so Ordo can go back to normal. Talisker attacks with his weapon, but it's no use, and now it's Percival's turn. Talisker isn't afraid since Percival is unarmed, but Percival forms a hand with his magic and gives Talisker a good smack. Landing a hit means Talisker must explain why he transformed Ordo. Ordo was helping everyone in the forest, but Talisker explains that rescuing races that aren't human is a sin. Taliscar's Lord Arthur wants humanity to live in peace with no other race to threaten it. Taliscar warned Ordo to stop, but he didn't, so Taliscar punished him. He turned him into a monster driven by an impulse to destroy and a duty to menace the world. Taliscar wanted him to destroy the gorge, so Ordo used his poison to drive all the animals out. That's enough explaining for Taliscar, so he uses his magic that controls the weather. His lightning strike hits Percival, but this just gets him mad. Percival charges at him with his now lightning charged magic and points out that he lost his own grandfather without any reason as well. Taliscar is shocked that Percival took his lightning magic and just now realizes that this kid is the green-haired knight of the apocalypse. Taliscar dodges the attack and realizes his good fortune. If he can eliminate Percival, then the doomsday prophecy for King Arthur will be gone for good. Sin reveals to Percival that his magic forms whatever is on his mind, so he should picture a weapon that will knock out Taliscar in one shot. Taliscar uses his most powerful attack, but it resembles a bird that Percival is very familiar with. Percival forms a knife like the one he used to cut up the bird, and he uses it to cut up the attack. Taliscar is absolutely stunned and can't believe how powerful one of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse is. Percival turns his magic into a projectile and the fight is finally over. No one can believe what they just saw, and they realize that Percival blew away the Holy Knight along with the mountain. The fight is over, but Percival doesn't even know how to put his magic away. Donnie thinks that they are being attacked by a giant zombie, but it's just Dolores. They can't understand how she is still alive, but Sin explains that giants have an ability that turns their bodies into metal for self-defense. She must have used it right before being attacked, with a reaction time that makes it clear that she has extensive battle training. Things aren't great though, as Nascens has a memory of when Ordo promised to save every race. Nascens breaks down as he points out that he tried so hard to protect the gorge because Ordo loved it so much. Percival apologizes because he couldn't keep his promise to transform Ordo back to normal, but Sin finds something that Taliscar dropped. Sin destroys it and Ordo magically turns back to normal. Nascens sobs uncontrollably and the two are finally reunited. Afterwards, Donnie makes fun of Nascens for crying like a little girl. He quickly realizes that he is being rude though, when Percival says that it's a natural reaction since Nascens got to see his grandpa again. Sin explains that the thing he broke was a chaos staff. These staffs are infused with chaotic force, and the King of Camelot hands them out to his knights. Just then, Percival proclaims that he has made a decision. He initially thought that all he wanted was to beat up his father, but everything just changed. Percival now wants to defeat the King of Camelot too. He never wants anyone to go through what he went through, and Sin likes to see this resolve. Percival remembers that they were having a competition, but neither of them have brought their prey. The little fox reveals that he managed to capture some evil-looking rabbit and reminds the both of them that the winner gets to give one order to the losers. Sin seems to have bad intentions, but Percival assumes he wants them to pick fleas off of him. Just then, Nascens appears and shockingly would like to go with them. Nascens owes Percival for saving them, and Ordo told Nascens to go out and learn the world. Sin thinks that his magic and knowledge of poisons could be useful to them. Donnie doesn't think it's a good idea, but Sin reminds him that he has to obey his one order. Dolores is pretty sad that Nascens is leaving, but Ordo points out that Nascens finally has a person he can call a friend. Our group begins their journey and starts by heading to a town called Sistana to find transportation. Ahead of them in Sistana, we see that a party is taking place and Ironside is there. He is searching for something in the city, but Duke Calden tells him that nothing has come up. His daughter has some kind of ability that lets her know that her father is lying, but she is more concerned with Ironside. Ironside says that he wants to save the town, but the girl can tell that he does not even breathe a single word of truth. Her name is Anne, and Ironside would like for her to meet his son. She was spaced out, so Ironside just says to continue looking for the piece of the coffin of eternal darkness. Elsewhere, Percival tries to command his little minions, but they don't listen. Nascens, however, discovers that if he poisons one of the mini Percivals, it changes color. Percival then shows them Ouroboros, the carving knife his grandpa gave him. Seeing as how it can grow, it's clearly a magic sword, but Percival still thinks it's a knife. Percival explains that he doesn't know anything about his grandpa's life as a holy knight, which is just more of a reason to find Ironside in Camelot. Nascens has his doubts about the existence of Camelot, but Percival says that he trusts Sin, and he wouldn't lie. The guys want Sin to use the teleporting orb to take them to the kingdom of Lioness so they don't have to walk, but that was his last one. Nascens is familiar with the spell bead and explains that one of the legendary knights of the 7 deadly sins named Merlin created them. They are orbs with different magic effects. Nascens' mouth gushes with blood as he gets excited while explaining that Merlin wrote a book about poisons. They eventually reach Sistana, and Percival's little minions strangely rush off. They get Percival to dig something up, and Sin is shocked when he realizes what it is. Before he can say anything, Anne tells them to put it back in the ground. However, if they plan to give it to a certain knight, then she will have to eliminate them instead. Donnie tries to explain that it was discovered by accident, but she doesn't believe them. Anne attacks them and doesn't listen to a single word they say. She plans to take the item back by force, but Percival just hands it to her. Percival says that it really was an accident, and the girl uses her ability on them. She can see that they are all hiding something, but she is shocked when she sees that there is nothing false or hidden about Percival. Sin wants to know more about the knight she mentioned, but a maid comes to get her. Anne panics and hides the item inside Percival's cloak. She tells him not to show anyone, but shocks everyone when she tells him to make sure to never let a knight named Ironside see it. Afterwards, Sin explains that the thing is a magic item of legend that was crafted by a giant. It's his first time seeing one, and it's a piece of the coffin of eternal darkness. Percival hasn't listened to a single word and just wants to go find Ironside since the girl mentioned him being there. Sin calms him down though by pointing out that a fight there could harm villagers. There are still a lot of questions that need to be answered, and they need to make sure that the magic item is even real. Elsewhere, Anne tries to explain to her father that Ironside cannot be trusted. Her father knows about her ability, but he doesn't like her using it because it's dangerous. Calden explains that Ironside fought alongside her mother to protect people, so they should just trust and obey him. He also fears what Ironside would do if they disobeyed him, so his decision is to avoid putting the townspeople in danger. Anne proclaims that she will become a holy knight and protect the people herself. She tells her father to stop being Ironside's lapdog, but he just slaps her. Calden goes to meet with Ironside, and we see that our heroes are watching them. Percival can't contain his anger and must be held back from attacking. Ironside addresses the crowd and gets them all terrified by saying that something is threatening their town. He reveals an artifact, and our boys can tell that it's only missing their piece. Sin explains that if he completes the artifact, it will be over for them all. The item was created to steal away the demon clan, and the goddess clan sacrificed themselves to trigger it. There are no goddesses around now, so Ironside must be planning to sacrifice the townspeople to activate it. Percival is ready to beat him up now, but Sin calms him down again. They have the missing piece of artifact, so they need to leave the town with the fragment. Percival doesn't want to leave when he has worked so hard to find Ironside, but Sin points out that he is no match for him right now. Ironside tells the crowd that if he can complete the artifact, then he will hold a ritual that will protect Sistana from disaster. He says that the kingdom of Lioness is gathering dreadful demons to wipe Britannia off the map, so everyone gets really mad at the kingdom. However, Anne arrives and shocks everyone when she accuses Ironside of lying. Ironside says that she is just young and speaking nonsense, but Anne reveals her ability to everyone. Ironside plans to discipline her for lying, and Sin wants to get away while they are arguing. The others agree but are stunned when Percival jumps in to tell Ironside to stop. Ironside can tell that Percival wants to avenge Varkeys, but then wonders if the boy might be trying to take the coffin. Percival uses his minions to distract Ironside and runs off with Anne. Ironside does major damage while trying to stop them, and explains that he doesn't care if he would have hurt Anne, since he would just consider her a worthy sacrifice. Donnie wonders if they should go back to help Percival, but Sin explains that they need to secure the magic item first. Unfortunately, they find that Anne's maid has the item. She is actually Ironside's familiar and flies away. Percival arrives and it becomes clear that Ironside must have been watching Anne all along. Ironside no longer needs Calden as he completes the artifact. Sin explains that the artifact needs a blood sacrifice. They have to destroy the coffin or take one of the pieces to stop it. Ironside is preparing to do the ritual right now, so they all decide to work together to stop him. Sin says that he will go prepare for anything that might happen, but Anne can sense that he is hiding something. Sin tells Percival to not even dare to try seriously fighting Ironside. No matter how strong Percival thinks he is, Ironside is 10 times stronger than that. Their mission starts and Anne thanks Percival for helping her earlier. Percival explains that Ironside ended his grandfather's life, and Anne says that Ironside wanted to marry her off to his son. Anne assumes that his son is just as bad as he is, and the guys laugh knowing that Percival is his son. Back at the house, Ironside begins chanting, and the coffin begins to glow. The ritual begins to intensify, and a black substance erupts from the ground. The black substance makes its way into town, where we see that one of them transforms the first thing it touches into a monster. More black substances fall, so a statue and an entire house become hideous monsters. Ironside tells his familiar named Darak that he will command the chaotic dead, and his goal is to make all of the townspeople sacrifices. Our group is horrified to see that there are so many monsters collecting sacrifices, but Percival is certain that Sin will figure something out. They just need to worry about stopping Ironside, but Anne reveals that Sin is lying to him about something. She can tell because of her ability, but Percival still trusts Sin. The others trust the little fox as well, but Anne thinks they are just being gullible. Anne finds her unconscious father, and Ironside wonders what Percival wants. He says that normally he would just destroy Percival, but tonight he is busy. Percival demands that Ironside stop the ritual, but Ironside terrifies them when he shows them just a bit of his power. They know that they must try to attack, but their bodies won't move. What's most terrifying is they can tell that Ironside wouldn't hesitate for a moment to end their lives. Percival isn't scared though and jumps forward to use his Hand of God magic slap. Ironside stops the attack while barely even moving, and Donnie is stunned since that was the attack that destroyed Talisker. Ironside thinks it would be foolish for Percival to try to fight him, and Nathan reminds Percival what they are there to do. Percival sends his little Percivals after the coffin, but it's no use. Ironside wants to know what they are trying to do, but Percival refuses to tell his deadbeat father. Ironside gets upset, and everyone must dodge as he uses an immense attack. Ironside once again tells Percival that he lacks discipline and demands that he respect him as his father. Anne is shocked when the guys catch her up on Percival's family troubles, and Donnie thinks they need to run away. He says they don't really have anything to do with the town, and Anne surprisingly agrees. This is the town's problem, so she thinks that she should be facing Ironside by herself. Nathan knows far too well what it's like to want to defend a homeland, and he decides to stay. Donnie doesn't even hesitate though and runs away as he doesn't want to die. Percival does the opposite by running straight into danger, and he warns Ironside that he will destroy the coffin if he doesn't stop. Ironside shows off his insane finger power again, but Percival dodges. He tells the others that he will pin Ironside down so they can destroy the coffin. The terrifying knight easily stops Percival, but he is quite impressed. Ironside prepares to end his son's life, but Anne stops him. Ironside laughs at the girl for thinking she could do anything to him, but she tries her best and states that she will become a holy knight like her mother. Ironside seems to simply be toying with her, and he destroys her clothes. This chick is seriously determined though, so she tears off her ruined dress, and Percival admires her heroic behavior. Ironside acknowledges her guts, but he is a serious misogynist and says that her bravery is too good for a girl. He is impressed that she was able to at least scratch him, but he's ready to finish her off. Unfortunately for him, he begins to faint, and Nathan reveals that he put a paralysis effect on Anne's sword. Ironside is getting really annoyed by all the undisciplined brats, and he determines that they are all desperate to get a taste of despair. Ironside prepares a strange attack, and everyone panics, including Anne's father. Ironside activates the powerful spell, and its destruction can be seen from really far away. Donnie runs through the town, but there are tons of monsters everywhere. He needs to get out of there quickly, but he hears some little kid calling out for help. Donnie wishes someone would help her already, and he thinks about what his uncle would want him to do. Back on the mountain, Anne can't understand why her father sacrificed himself for her, and he simply explains that it's because she is his daughter. Luckily, she realizes that Percival used his minis to protect him, and the same goes for Nason's. They desperately search for Percival and find that he is in Ironside's hand. Ironside commends Percival for protecting his friends, but he knows that if Percival is allowed to grow up, he will become a fearsome threat. Percival couldn't care less about what this jerk is saying, and just wants to know why Ironside ended his grandfather's life. Ironside explains that he had to, even if there was only just a slight chance that Varghese was part of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse. That's not all though, as Ironside gets really angry, and reveals that Varghese took something dear to him and fled. Anne's attempt at saving Percival fails, but she reminds Percival about the coffin. Ironside stops him from attacking it though. Percival demands that he stop the ritual, but Ironside sends his blade through Percival's hand instead. Ironside has to be one of the worst fathers ever, as he moves his sword around inside Percival's hand. Anne tries to guilt Ironside into stopping by reminding him that Percival is his son, but that doesn't work and he strikes fear into her very soul. Ironside is having a good old time being a terrible father, and Anne begs him to stop before Percival dies. Ironside explains that once the ritual is done, it will make Linus crumble. And when he takes care of Percival, the Four Knights of the Apocalypse will never form a complete group. Percival's minis try to protect and heal him, but Ironside crushes them. He thinks that it's dumb magic, but it's perfectly suitable for a failure like Percival. Nascens begs for Ironside to stop, but it's too late as Ironside plunges his sword into Percival. The mini Percivals disappear and Nascens breaks down as he failed to do anything to help. The cold-blooded, soulless Ironside is glad that the 4 Nights of the Apocalypse prophecy will no longer come true now that Percival is gone. Ironside just goes right back to finishing the ritual and commands the monsters to massacre the entire town to create sacrifices. Nascens drags Percival closer and Ironside tells them to just go home. Nascens desperately tries to give Percival one of his poisons, but it's no use. Anne takes it from him though and forces it down Percival's throat. Unfortunately, shoving it down his throat doesn't work, and Anne points out how horrible it is that Percival's life ended at the hands of his own father. Ironside isn't even paying attention to them anymore and continues demanding for sacrifices from the monsters. Back in town, the girl that was begging for help earlier is no longer scared. It turns out that Donnie lifted the monster in the sky and told the girl that he would fix everything before it falls back down. The girl's mom assumes that Donnie is a holy knight and is certain that he will save the town. We then see that Donnie is rushing back to the mountain and he has determined that there are way too many monsters, so he won't be able to escape. He goes back and forth in his mind as he is terrified that Ironside will kill him, but he doesn't want to let down his new friends. Donnie realizes that he doesn't need to fight Ironside and he only needs to get the coffin. He gains even more confidence though since Percival is there and everything always turns out okay when he's around. Just then, a baby Percival appears and Ironside is shocked that Percival somehow regained a tiny bit of magic. This should be impossible since he is sure that he ended Percival's life. It's no big deal for this guy though, as he can easily do it again with a simple attack. The explosion is massive, but Nascens protects Percival's body. Ironside realizes that the paralyzing potion has drastically affected his magic's precision, so he tells Nascens to get out of his way. Nascens refuses and continues to protect Percival from Ironside's attacks. Nascens explains that he still hasn't repaid his debt to Percival, so things can't end this way, and another mini surprisingly appears. Anne attacks Ironside and says that Percival can't die yet since she has never met someone with no lies or trickery like him. His friend's hopefulness seems to be doing something as more mini Percivals begin to appear. Nascens continues by admiring how Percival rescued everyone in the forest and he calls him his hero. This really seems to do the trick as more minis appear and Percival begins to glow. Ironside cuts off some of Anne's hair but warns her that her head will be next. Just then, Ironside is stunned as he sees that Percival's magic is multiplying on its own. That's not the only surprise though, as Donnie arrives and recites Percival's saying, "Crush the evil and rescue the weak." Nascens wonders why he came back, and Donnie says it's simply because they have Percival there. He wonders where his little buddy is, but everyone is shocked when the mini Percivals multiply everywhere. Everyone gets covered in them, but no one knows what's happening. Ironside decides to just attack everything, and Anne's father is shocked when everyone is gone. Ironside really begins to see just how dangerous Percival can be and determines that he must finish him for good. We then see what he is upset about as Percival has brought everyone to the sky. Percival tells all his friends that he heard them calling to him through the darkness. This is his magic, but he credits them for giving him the strength to use it. They all believed in him and those feelings gave him power. Percival remembers how his grandpa wanted him to find someone whose heart he could trust, and he tells him that he found them. Ironside is in complete disbelief and wonders what kind of power this is. Percival has another memory of his grandpa and calls his magic the same thing his grandpa once called him, hope. Ironside is stunned to hear that Percival is able to convert people's feelings of hope into his own power. He has clearly underestimated his unwanted son, but explains that even if Percival has managed to buy a little time, nothing will change. The town will soon meet its demise and the ritual will begin. In town, people are being terrorized and all the monsters are determined to activate the Coffin of Eternal Darkness at all costs. One poor guy is about to become monster food, but a mysterious man rescues him. This guy starts doing some serious damage with his unique attack, and Duroc takes notice. Ironside has finished preparing for the ritual, but Duroc must explain to him that the dead are being destroyed one after another by a mysterious attacker. There is no information on this guy, so Duroc goes to confront him, but it doesn't go well for Ironside's goon. Our heroes wonder if it's some group of holy knights that have come to help, and Donnie assumes that Sin succeeded in getting backup. Percival declares their victory, and Ironside has no choice but to concede. This terrible father tells his fatherless offspring that he is sure that Varghese would be proud of him. The orphan boy is quick to point out that Ironside took his grandfather's life, so Ironside explains that he was ordered to do it. Ironside almost seems to express remorse for what he had done, and even points out that he attempted to eliminate his own son twice. Even though it's like only the second time they have met, Ironside reveals that this will be the last time they will ever see each other. He will be punished for failing his mission, so he will be executed. Ironside tells Percival to come to him so he can see his beloved son's face one last time before he dies, but Anne uses her ability to see that Ironside is lying. Apparently, no one could have guessed that this evil father killer was lying, so Anne warns Percival that Ironside just wants to kill him. Ironside becomes increasingly annoyed by Anne and just comes out and tells Percival that he wants to end him. Ironside uses his terrifying cross attack, but Percival manages to dodge them all. His friends are amazed by his speed, but Percival credits their feelings for giving him this power. Ironside can't seem to land a single attack, and he realizes it's because his body is still a bit numb. Percival then used the cheesy power of friendship and drops little Percival bombs to create a smokescreen. Percival tries to land a punch, but Ironside can easily read his movements. Things are seriously dangerous, so Percival remembers how Sin warned him not to try to fight Ironside for any reason. The others point out that their movement is limited as long as Ironside is by the coffin, so they need to figure out how to get him away from it. Percival comes up with an idea and calls on his trusty friend Donnie. Percival prepares for another attack, but Ironside reminds him that he has no chance of defeating him. Percival is well aware that he can't beat him in a fight, but his goal is something else. Ironside is then shocked as Percival attacks the coffin with his blade. The coffin breaks apart and Donnie keeps a piece from falling, since all they need to do is keep one piece away from Ironside to stop the ritual. Ironside's helmet falls apart and we get our first look at Percival's deadbeat father. This evil looking dude explains to Percival that he hasn't won yet. All Ironside will have to do is end his life along with all his friends' lives and reassemble the coffin. Even if this town won't provide the sacrifices he needs, Britannia is crawling with more. Ironside prepares to end all their lives, but some guy dressed like a golden trophy arrives to stop him. Sir Glimmers-a-Lot is actually named Mortlock, and Ironside demands that he let him go. Mortlock is a pretty laid-back guy though, and understands how frustrated Ironside must be. His ritual has gotten all messed up, and he is duty-bound not to let one of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse escape. Mortlock reveals that their real problem is this mystery person that appeared in town. Ironside summoned high-level dead monsters, but this mysterious guy instantly wiped them all out. Mortlock fears that if such a beast really exists, then they must surely be one of the legendary heroes, the 7 deadly sins. Either that or someone with just as much fighting power. Everyone is shocked to hear these words, and Ironside agrees that it would be best for them to leave. Our heroes are glad that it's all over, but they can hardly move. Percival can't believe he almost died, but the others point out that he actually did die for a second there. Donnie thinks they did a good job against Ironside, but Anne rejects the idea. If Percival didn't come back, then they would all be dead. Percival, always looking at the bright side, explains that they won because they all worked together. Anne goes to greet her father and acknowledges how horrible it must have been for him having to obey Ironside's orders. Sin arrives soon after, and everyone wonders who Sin sent to help them save the town. They all hope that it was one of the 7 deadly sins, but Sin reveals that it was his forest pals. Anne can tell that he is lying, but Percival believes him completely. Percival is bursting with energy and notices that his cloak that made him look like a bird earlier returned to normal. Nascence points out that it must have been his magic that transformed it, but Percival has some serious ADD and can't focus on anything. Everyone is glad to see that the kid is okay, even after having to fight his own father, and Percival runs off to take care of very important business. Sometime later, when Percival is all alone, he begins to cry, as he thinks about how his father looks so much like his grandpa. Elsewhere, Ironside is scolded for his failure. King Arthur is disappointed, but wants Ironside to send a message to those that defeated him. If they want to destroy the king, then they can go ahead and try. Arthur explains that this was their best chance at destroying Linus, their largest opposing force at the moment. Ironside makes no excuses and simply prepares for his punishment. Arthur respects him a lot for that and doesn't hesitate to cause this guy an unimaginable amount of pain. Arthur then explains his goal. From the ancient past, mankind has always gotten caught in war with other species and suffered greatly because of that. King Arthur wanted to create a land with no pain, no sadness, and where no one is exposed to any kind of threat. That is why he built Camelot. He wishes to free the entire Britannia, but between the 7 deadly sins and these new 4 Knights of the Apocalypse, his wish can't come true. Ironside has been getting tortured this entire conversation, and Arthur finishes it up by reminding Ironside not to fail him again. Arthur explains that no one in this world values him more than he does, and he releases Ironside from the endless pain. Ironside is shocked that the numbness he felt is gone, and Arthur points out that he removed the poison that Nason's put in his body. Ironside vows to search for Percival to get revenge, but Arthur has an even more important favor to ask of him. Arthur explains that they keep losing battles because their opponent has the vision, and he looks at Merlin for agreement. The only way they can learn of the future is to intercept it. Their opponent will be expecting them to try and take the vision. It won't be easy to get, so that isn't Arthur's request. Ironside is then shocked by his real request, and that is to search for his bride. Back in Sistana, Anne's father thanks our heroes for saving their town. The destroyed homes can be rebuilt, and what is most important is the fact that they didn't lose a single citizen. Sin tells everyone that his forest pals are probably eating breakfast somewhere, but everyone wishes he would just tell them who really came to the rescue. Anne's father then reveals that he knows Ironside because Ironside was an acquaintance of his wife. They were both holy knights serving under King Arthur, and his wife never had anything bad to say about Ironside. She described him as an upright man constantly striving to do good. No one can believe that since Ironside is clearly an evil guy these days. Anne's father has one more request to ask of them, but he is interrupted by Anne, who's starting to look more and more like Bulma from Dragon Ball Z. She is more serious than ever about becoming a holy knight, but fighting against Ironside has opened her eyes. She only now realizes how much she lacks in experience and power, so she wants to set off on an adventure. Anne wants to become someone that can protect what she cares about, even if she is alone. Her father refuses to let her travel alone, but our boy Percival steps up to ask her to come with them. This works for everyone, so Anne agrees to go with them. Her father tears up as Anne has so many similarities to her mother, but Anne points out that she has his eyebrows. She doesn't actually though, and the two have a heartfelt goodbye. As their journey begins, Sin reveals that he has no clue what Ironside is trying to do. One thing is certain though, and that is that Ironside will appear before them again one day. Sin must then tell the young hero to stop being so gloomy after realizing that his father wants to end him because he's one of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse that is going to destroy the world. Sin states that he should be focusing that negative energy on becoming stronger, strong enough to send his father and Fate flying. Percival is re-inspired and states that as long as he is together with everyone, he feels like he can become the strongest person to ever exist. The others are getting far ahead of him, so Percival rushes off to catch up to all his friends. Anne seems to think that she is the main character as she celebrates the beginning of her glorious quest to become a holy knight. Danny interrupts her little party to remind her that her father was supposed to give them transportation for saving the town. Donnie is pretty upset though, as their transportation ended up being some derpy looking horse. Anne calls him rude since this derpy horse called Sylvan has actually been her best friend since childhood. Everyone begins to pity her since it must be hard to make friends when she has the ability to see whenever a person is lying. Percival always likes to keep things positive though, and reminds her that they are all friends now. Percival tries to play a game to see if she can tell if he is lying, but after joking about the horse's short little legs, Percival gets kicked in the face. All the guys wish they would have gotten a wagon instead of just a horse, but Anne warns that she will leave them behind if they keep whining. Moments later, she is the one whining, as her horse friend is too exhausted to keep up with the boys. Sin sighs about the disappointing horse, but Sylvan confronts him to see if he has some kind of problem. The little fox is never one to sugarcoat things, and tells Sylvan that he will turn him into a horse kebab if he keeps slowing them down. While Sylvan shakes from fear, Anne asks about their destination. She becomes really excited after hearing that they are headed to the kingdom of Leonis because it's the homeland of the most renowned holy knights in all of Britannia. More importantly though, their ruler is King Meliodas, leader of the 7 deadly sins. Percival shockingly doesn't know about them, so they wonder if he has been under a rock his entire life. Everyone explains that despite being branded as traitors to the kingdom, this group saved Leonis countless times. They are a group of holy knights who defeated the king of the demon clan in the Holy War. Anne then shows her great treasure, a poster from Meliodas was a wanted man. Admiring this guy makes her realize that they haven't selected a leader for their group yet. Our boy Percival was never even taught what a leader is, so Anne explains that it's someone that unites the team. Percival is clearly the strongest among them, but she thinks he is more of a mascot. Nason's is more of a strategist, and she can only see Donnie being bait. He rightfully gets pretty upset, but Anne determines that she's really the only candidate for the leader position. Everyone just goes along with it, but Percival thinks Donnie should be the leader since he was the one everyone thanked when leaving the town. Anne gets really upset and questions if Donnie wants to become a holy knight as well, but he denies it. Sin calls everyone idiots and tells them that it's time to discuss their plan. To reach Leonis, they have to cross the Delfair mountain range, so they will first prepare at the nearest town. Anne insists that they just cross the mountains now, but Sin reveals that the place is a dark realm. Almost nobody makes it over the mountains alive. She concedes and Percival gets excited to be heading to a real big town. At some bar in the town of Kant, some guy gets really drunk and a worker threatens to kick him out. The boss fears this guy, however, and tells his men that they are fools if they don't fear him as well. That is because this man is Leonis' great holy knight named Hauser. Donnie then has a memory from when Hauser was training him and some other kid named Edlin on how to fight. Edlin was a better fighter than Donnie, and Hauser always instructed them to never hold back. The young boys were ecstatic to hear that Hauser thought they were improving, but explained to them that it takes more than sword skills and magic to become a holy knight. It's all about how they use that power, but Hauser promised to teach him that too. The group finally arrive at the town of Kant, but it looks more like a weird fort. In town, Nathan goes to a forge to see if they can make things from glass, as he needs some medicine bottles. Anne goes shopping for clothes, and Donnie finds the tavern to have a drink. Percival hears cheers in the distance, and finds that it's a place where they are having some kind of sumo match. Sin is still at the entrance and yells at his team since they need to find a place to stay first. They eventually find a place, but Anne has all their money since she doesn't trust the men and Beast with it. The boys all assume that she is on the toilet, but she has really just been shopping. Anne asks for some help from her subordinates, but Percival thinks she means she needs help wiping her butt. They all wonder what she was doing, and she reminds them that they need to be ready to cross the mountains. She reveals that she has bought supplies, but it's just a bunch of cute old stuff. Anne also bought everyone clothes, and is proud that she left them with 3 silver coins. Sin gets furious, however, as that is 20 silver coins short of being able to afford the inn. Not only that, but Sin gave her 10 gold coins, enough to furnish an entire house. Sin scolds her as a sorry excuse for a leader, as they will have to camp out for the night thanks to her. Everyone is pretty upset, but our boy Percival loves camping. Anne gets upset now and heads off to get their money back, taking Percival with her. The boys go to get a drink while Sin goes to take a walk. At the tavern, Donnie shoos away the guy mocking them for drinking ale in the middle of the day, but Donnie is shocked to find that it's Hauser. Hauser is drunk out of his mind and is disappointed that Donnie fled Holy Knight training to become a traveling entertainer. He wonders if drinking is part of Donnie's act, but Donnie explains that he's just taking a little break. Donnie tells Nasons that Hauser is a holy knight, but is also his deceased mother's brother. Elsewhere, the shady worker from earlier tells his mystery boss that their target split into 2 groups. He explains that Hauser is talking to one now, but he will likely pass out soon. This mystery guy seems to have bad intentions, as he tells his goon to show their target a good time. Elsewhere, the mini-horse sympathizes with Sin for having to take their group all the way to Leonis. Sin is pretty stressed out as he explains that he never thought it would be so difficult. Back at the sumo match, the crowd roars as a new champion has emerged. The payout is huge and we see that Anne has won a whole bunch of money. All the spectators are stunned as Percival just beat all their most powerful competitors. Percival always displays great sportsmanship and thanks all his beat up opponents for playing with him. Back at the tavern, Donnie asks his uncle how his old friend Edlin is doing. Hauser refuses to answer as he doesn't speak to cowards that abandoned their training. Nasons questions what a great holy knight like him is doing there, but he doesn't talk to amateurs either. Donnie accidentally drops the piece of the coffin of eternal darkness and picks it up real casually. Hauser gets really heated about it and wonders where Donnie stole it from. Donnie denies stealing it, but Hauser distinctly remembers that Donnie used to steal coins from his wallet. Hauser wonders if Donnie even realizes what it is, but Donnie does kind of know how it's supposed to seal demons. Hauser gives him a good smack to the face and explains that if it falls into the wrong hands, Leonis will be wiped out. Hauser determines that he was a fool to ever think Donnie could be counted on. This guy really piles on and says that a kid as spineless as Donnie could never protect anything or anyone. Hauser is glad that Donnie gave up on becoming a holy knight, and he is certain that Donnie's mother is crying up in heaven. Nason sticks up for him, but the other members of the group barge in. Donnie rushes out and Hauser takes all the money and won from betting. Hauser assumes that they are the ones influencing Donnie, but Nathan steps in to demand that Hauser give everything back. Nathan calls Hauser a drunk, and Percival wonders if this guy really hit Donnie. Percival gets really upset when Hauser admits to it, and all the drunk idiots at the bar get excited for a fight. Hauser refuses to fight a child, but Nathan has another way to settle things. Our boy Nathan is crazy as he suggests a drinking game. They will drink one at a time, and the first person that falls loses. Hauser is already a bit drunk, but that makes things even considering that Nathan is a child. The two begin, but Hauser states that no one has ever beat him at fighting or drinking. Nathan continues the match, but whispers to Percival and Anne. He explains that there is something odd about the whole town. He thought it was nothing at first, but he's becoming more and more sure of it because of several clues. The shop Anne went to had items that were all priced the same, despite every item being completely different. The Forge sold a bunch of things with the royal emblem. Those are added to special orders, not offered for regular sale. Nathan determines that everything must be stolen, but that isn't all. He questions if all these people really live there. Just then, Anne and Percival both faint. Hauser compliments Nathan for having a sharp mind, but unfortunately he figured everything out too late. The mysterious guy from earlier arrives and tells Hauser that he picked the wrong place to take a vacation. Hauser's disappointed to see that the rumors were true, and this person has become the leader of the bandits. Nathan wonders who he is, and Hauser gives the shocking answer. This person is Edlin, his apprentice and Donnie's old friend. Thanks for watching my recap. Sign up to my free newsletter if you want to show some support to the channel. Link is in the description.